Hey everybody, it's Cole with Rookie Ace, and we're doing another Wings of Glory Wednesdays today. Alright, so today we are going to look at the venerable Sopwith Camel. One of, you have the DR-1 as like the most iconic warbird of World War I, but the Sopwith Camel is often right behind that. It's just an extremely famous plane, and for a good reason. It was deadly to its pilots, and deadly to the enemy. So anyway, without further ado, let's look at what we've got here. So, the Sopwith Camel, that's its straights. So that's, its speed is a little faster than average, I'd say. At least for myself, it just looks, I'd say it's right up there with like the Fokker D7, that sort of speed class. And to compare it to its main rival, the Fokker DR-1, it's definitely gonna get an edge there. I mean, some of these planes, the speed differential is not very much, but you've got a whole finger's worth of speed differential here. So that is definitely going to play a part. The Sopwith Camel can definitely outrun the DR-1 in the long run. So, it's good, especially if you want to cover, long distances fast. By no means is it going to be as fast as like the Spatter SE5, but it's fairly close to that. So it's a very, very comfortable speed to fly at. Before I go on, one thing that I'd worry about, since this aircraft is a bit on the faster side, is any time that you're coming up behind a two-seater that's slower, especially like the Roland, your speed is going to be fairly fast, so you're going to close very quickly, and then you'll overshoot and fly past them, and then that slower aircraft will be shooting at you with the tail gun on the way towards the approach, and will be shooting at you through its nose gun after you pass through. So you'll want to throw some stalls in there and kind of play it smart when closing on two-seaters. Alright, so then you have the Implosion turn right here. Again, pretty basic. I'd say it's a fairly comfortable speed. Then you have the dive, and you have the climb. And the Sopwith Camel climbs on a, let me push this up a bit so we can see it. Alright, the Sopwith Camel climbs on a 3, so I'd say a very comfortable climb speed. Anything above 3 and I start to feel like the aircraft climbs a little too slow. But 3 is about as much as I'm comfortable with. I mean, 2 of course is amazing and all that, but as I've discussed in previous videos, 3 can actually be something you can strategize around effectively, as in you can do more Implosion turns and kind of bank 2 climb counters, and then whenever you want it, you can play that climb and get that third climb and get up another peg of altitude. And you don't have to be as conscious of do I want to do an Implosion this turn or not, as some of the 2 climb planes do, just because anytime one of those planes that climbs on a 2 does an Implosion, they have 1 climb counter already, and then they have to think, okay, I don't want to do an Implosion again unless I want to be at another peg of altitude. And the Camel gives you a little bit of breathing room since it climbs on a 3 with that. Hope that kind of made sense. Alright, and then here are the stalls I was talking about. These are fairly useful if you're closing on a 2-seater and you want to get a killer shot in, maximize your time. Of course, you got to be careful when approaching those 2-seaters, because of course the longer time you stay in their gun sights, they can shoot right back at you. So, you gotta approach 2-seaters with caution. It wasn't for nothing that pilots considered 2-seaters the deadliest planes to engage in World War I. Alright, you got side slips, and due to its speed, you'll cover a lot more forward ground than some of these other planes with the slower side slips. Let's look at the DR-1 again. So, for the DR-1's faster side slip, it's still quite slow. Let me push this forward so we can see it better. So yeah, so that is the DR-1's forward side slip. So you'll notice that it covers slightly less ground to the side because it's slower, and it definitely covers less ground going forward. So the DR-1 is definitely a close quarters dogfighter. The Camel kind of likes to spread its wings a bit and, take up some more space. Alright, so then you have the rest of those side slips, and then let me clear these cards away. Then you have the turns. So you have left and right, and so the turns are fairly wide, as you can see. Once again, let's compare the DR1, and there you go. The DR1's turn is noticeably shorter and covers less distance than the Camel's. Again, this comes as a side benefit of being a slower plane. So, you have to keep in mind when you're fighting the DR1, even though they turn better to the right, if you try and get in a left-hand turn with them, you're still going to get outturned with them because their standard turn just has a smaller radius than your standard turn. So keep that in mind. So you might be thinking, okay, the DR1 turns better to the right and to the left as well, how am I going to win? Well, here is the answer. You have a tight turn to the right, and another tight turn to the right. Well, so far so good. Every other plane has two, you know, every other comparable plane. But this is what makes the Camel unique. You have three tight turns to the right. The DR1 has tight turns to the right as well, and they are just a tad tighter. Let me see if I can find one here. Yeah, so the DR1's tight turns to the right are definitely slightly tighter, but it only has two. So, where you're going to get the DR1 drivers is in a sustained turn, because they can only play two of those and then they have to play their standard turn. You, on the other hand, can literally turn on a dime if you're going to the right. Just like that. And you see you cover very little ground over the course of 3 cards, but you're facing a whole different direction. And this is just extremely useful if you want to pivot and get right in on somebody. Of course, it takes a bit of strategy. You want to make sure like you're not flying where the edge of the table is right here, because then if if the edge of the table is to your right, then you can't employ your right turn to turn because you'll fly off the edge of the table. So you do want to allow for your right turn and when you're planning, and try and not get yourself into situations where you just can't use it. Anyway, so the Camel is it's a quirky little plane, and it's a lot of fun to fly. It has 15 points of damage, so it can take more damage than, say, the DR1, which comes in at 13, and it has A-guns, which is pretty standard for fighters of the day and age. So that means 2 machine guns, nice little bit of damage you can push out there. Overall, the Camel is a faster fighter, which can be good or bad depending on your situation. And it climbs on a 3, again that can be good or bad depending on how you fly it. And it has a excellent sustained right turn. I mean, there's no rival in Wings of Glory to its sustained right turn. So that is a really cool trick to have up your sleeve, but its wide turns to the right and to the left are fairly wide, for lack of a better word, so that's great if you're trying to close the distance on a target and quickly get in as close as you can, but it's not great if you're trying to outturn someone to the left in a really tight turning situation. So just bear that in mind with the Camel. Alright, so got a couple announcements here first, and let me just clear this stuff out of the way. So first of all, some people had asked me to do some tactics videos for this, and I think that is a great idea. So what I'm thinking about doing is sometime in the next few months making some sort of Wings of Glory Wednesday tactics video where we'll take a scenario, for instance, let's say I'll take a scenario where I'll put a DR1 at back of a Camel, right here. And then I'll say, okay, what are you going to do if you find yourself in this situation? And then I'll lay out the options about what people could do, and how the Camel could possibly reverse the tables, and what the DR1 could do to counter that, and then just basically run through some scenarios. So that'll give people a really physical look at what could happen on the game table, and hopefully that'll be helpful as you all think of your own tactics. Alright, and now finally, kind of the moment we've been waiting for almost a month now. So if you all recall, I have this custom painted Newport 28 right here, and I still need to finish painting it. That's going to be done very quickly now. But anyway, so somebody in the Wings of Glory community has gifted me a mystery German scout plane that's not official, but just a mystery plane that I get to repaint. And so I've asked people to submit guesses as to what it is, and if you got it right, then we would go ahead and I will mail this fine looking miniature out to you free of charge. And so here it is. I have 9 guesses, 9 people guessed, and none of them got it right. It's a tricky plane, you know? Not many people think of this plane when you go to Wings of War. Pardon me, when you think of World War I planes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the people who guessed, I'm going to put their names in a hat, and I'll draw one. So before I do that though, let's reveal the plane. This is what I'm going to be working on. This is the Pfalz D-12, a late war German high altitude aircraft. It's very fast, it has some fragile characteristics. I'm looking forward to learning more about how the unofficial rules have incorporated it into the game, and if you watch my Rise of Flight stuff at all, you'll know that this is one of my favorite aircraft to fly at high altitudes. So, it is the Pfalz D-12. Thank you so much to Baron Rolf on the Wings of Glory forums for gifting that to me. I sincerely appreciate it, and this is kind of my way of paying that forward. So, alright. So, I've got 9 names. I'm going to put them in a hat. Since I have a love for all things World War I think it's only fitting that I put them in a German NCO's hat. Alright, so that's 2 of the names. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's 9. I'm not going to be looking. I'm not looking at all. We're just going to shake it up. And I'm just going to feel around, and I'm going to choose, let's see, this one. Alright, what do we have? We have got Rommel on Blitz. Alright, congratulations Rommel. You win the Newport 28. I'll be private messaging you on the Wings of Glory forums shortly to get your shipping information. Anyway guys, thank you so much for sticking around. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will catch you again in 2 weeks with the next video. Until then, salute and blue skies. Hey guys, if you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe by clicking on the shield in the top left corner. If you really liked what you saw and want to be a part of helping us make better content in the future, check us out on Patreon. Until next time, thanks so much for watching, and blue skies.